In 2015, a 26-year-old high school teacher named Stephanie Scott taught English and drama at Leighton High School, which is located in southern New South Wales, Australia. She was in a relationship with the love of her life, Aaron Leeson Woolley. The two were engaged for 5 years and they were going to be married April 11th. But something went wrong and an hideous crime was being committed just before the wedding could take place. How did this happen? And who did this to Stephanie Scott? This is Unsolved Files, a place where true crime stories are brought to your doorstep. What are you waiting for? It won't take anything from you if you just hit the subscribe button for more fascinating and suspense-filled crime stories. Now let's get back into this story and uncover this mystery. The wedding planning was in full swing the week prior to Stephanie and Aaron's wedding, and Stephanie was putting the finishing touches on their special day. The couple had planned to go on their honeymoon to Tahiti after their wedding, and at this time, Stephanie had arranged time off work. Being a teacher, and what seems a variable, wonderful teacher at that, Stephanie went into the high school on Easter Sunday, April 5, 2015, to finalize lesson plans for the substitute teacher. While she was in the school building, she also emailed the bus company for confirmation of plans to shuttle her wedding guests to the venue. This email is a last known communication from Stephanie Scott at 12:59 p.m. She will never put her dress on for her wedding day, never walk down the aisle, or go on her honeymoon. Her fiancé Aaron was visiting his family that day for Easter and arrived home that afternoon. He and Stephanie had plans to go out for dinner that night at about 8 p.m., but Stephanie never showed up. Her car was nowhere around and her phone will initially ring out when called, but eventually went to message bank instead. Now at this point, Aaron tried to put his panic aside, hoping maybe the stress of the wedding and leaving her students for so long meant she just needed a little space. But to be completely silent like this was just not like her. Although planning a wedding is stressful to say the least, Stephanie had by all accounts very much enjoyed the process, and in the previous day she had been telling all of her students about her dress and the wedding food. This wasn't someone that seemed nervous or overwhelmed. The following day, April 6th, 5 days before the wedding, her fiancé Aaron reports Stephanie as missing. Some speculated that she may have had cold feet before the wedding, but Stephanie's family and friends know how madly in love she was and knew she wouldn't run off from Aaron or the family and friends who traveled in for their special day. Guests that came in for the wedding were urged to help with the search for the missing bride. Community and the media swarmed to help in any way they can. Aaron tells news outlets it's baffling to him, that he wonders where she could be. It was difficult for him to hear about her cold feet, and deep down in his heart, he believed she wouldn't have done that to him. Stephanie's sister Robin tells Fairfax Media that she spoke to her on that Saturday night, and she was over the moon and that she was so excited. Stephanie had been to Griffith that day. Her sister called her, shopping and getting ready for the honeymoon. They spoke about how this time next week she would be married. There's just no clue. They were not aware of anything that could make Stephanie change her mind about the wedding. And now, she just hasn't been seen since Sunday. On April 8th, Stephanie's car, a red Mazda 3 sedan with registration BZD19CD, is found, and blood can be seen inside. Shockingly, on the same day, Vincent Stanford, age 24, a casual cleaner at the high school, is questioned, then arrested in connection to this case. The police were given information about Stanford, a Leighton resident of about 13 months, that led them to question him about his movements on April 5th. Stanford's alibi was that he was at a grocery store. However, when police was verifying this, it was discovered the store was closed as it was Easter Sunday. Active Tim Clark knew something wasn't right about what he was being told, so he went to Stanford's home to talk to him. At the time, he wasn't home, but his mother gave them permission to look in his bedroom. In his bedroom, they found a set of keys that were given to Stephanie by a coworker so that she could access the school on Easter Sunday. When Stanford returns home, he tells police he was out taking photos. The police look at the camera where they found 2 images of a burned body on it. The police continued to search the home and find a piece of timber with Stephanie's blood on it, a red bra that was confirmed to be hers, and a boot liner that was from her red Mazda 3 car was discovered, but he refused to tell police where he placed Stephanie's body. The following day, April 9th, Vincent Stanford was charged with the murder of Stephanie Scott. While Stanford sits in the jail, family, friends, and the community of Layton begin to create a memorial for Stephanie. Outside the high school, placing yellow ribbons, balloons, and flowers out for the missing teacher. On Friday, April 10th, the laptop belonging to Stephanie was found 5 days after she is reported missing. The laptop is found in the outskirts of town, in an irrigation canal, and Stephanie Scott's burned body is found in bushland in Cocoa Pears National Park. The area in which Stephanie is found is 70 kilometers away from Layton. On Saturday, April 11th, 2015, on what should have been Stephanie and Aaron's wedding day, loved ones of Stephanie have a picnic for her and paid tribute. The nation is shocked and saddened by this horrific crime, and the hashtag #PutYourDressOut is created in tribute to Stephanie, a woman taken too soon. Women everywhere in Australia place their dress outside their homes, which was a sign of honor, not only for Stephanie but the many women who lose their lives to violence every year in Australia. In a police interview on April 21st, Stanford begins to divulge the horror, violence, and murder of Stephanie.
Are you able to tell me why you got angry at Stephanie and why you wanted to kill her?
I didn't really feel anger, I just wanted to kill her.
Stanford said he saw Stephanie Scott at the school and began to watch her. Originally, Stephanie wasn't his intended victim. It was revealed during court proceedings that Vincent Stanford planned to kidnap, rape, and kill a 12-year-old girl who also lived in the Layton area. However, the girl was away with her parents that weekend, so instead, sadly, Stephanie Scott became his victim. After watching Stephanie, Stanford goes to his house where he lives with his mother and collects what he calls his suit-right kit and returns to the school. As Stephanie is leaving the school, she says to Stanford, "I'm going home now, have a happy Easter." Stanford tells police that as she walks away to leave, he grabs her by the waist, put his hands over her mouth, and pulled her into the storeroom. He then proceeds to rape her, punching her up to a shocking 30 to 40 times before plunging a knife into her throat and killing her. Stanford leaves Stephanie's body in a storeroom and goes home to have a cheese sandwich for lunch with his mother and older brother. Later that night, Stanford returns to the school, where he loads Stephanie's body into her own car whilst he cleaned the scene of the attack. Stanford tells police during his interview that he used a high-pressure water cleaner to rid of any blood. After that, he then drives her car to the Cocoa Pears National Park, which is 8.5 kilometers from where Stephanie was last seen. He burns Stephanie's body and dumps her car and laptop. Stanford decides to keep her bra. When asked by the police why he kept it, he says, "I suppose as a souvenir." He takes 2 photos of her body on his camera. Over 1,500 mourners attended Stephanie Scott's funeral on April 22nd at the same venue her wedding was to be held at. Many wore pops of yellow for Stephanie. Businesses in the area closed early and leave yellow ribbons on their door as a sign of respect. The community of Layton comes together to mourn the loss of a bright, bubbly soul who was loved by so many. On June 3rd, Vincent Stanford is charged with the aggravated sexual assault of Stephanie Scott. June 10th, Vincent Stanford's twin, Marcus Stanford, is arrested in South Australia for being an accessory after the fact of Scott's murder. It is alleged that Marcus helped his brother pawn Scott's engagement ring and other personal belongings, such as her driver's license. During the police interrogation with Vincent, he was very certain and quick to answer the questions that were asked by the police. Finally, he pleads guilty on March 31st, 2016. The same day, Vincent is committed to stand trial for the rape and murder of Stephanie Scott. He pleads guilty to the rape and murder of Stephanie Scott on July 20th. On August 24th, Marcus Stanford is sentenced to jail for 15 months for being an accessory after the murder. He was released in September 2016. In evidence presented in the trial of Instant Steamer, it is showed that Stanford had invoices for the purchases of cleaning products, Viagra knives, plastic handcuffs known as flexi cuffs, and a training sword. Stanford first thought of killing when he was just a child himself, and in 2003 he grabbed one of his teachers by the throat. A psychologist who interviewed Stanford said that the killer showed no lack of remorse, and when asked about the murder, he said, "I hardly remember it. It was so long ago." Vincent Stanford is sentenced to 15 years for the aggravated sexual assault, followed by a life sentence for the murder of Stephanie. Due to the violent and vile nature of this attack, Stanford will never be released and will die in jail. Upon sentencing, the judge stated Mr. Stanford's culpability is so extreme that the community interest in retribution, punishment, community protection, and utterance can only be met with the imposition of a life sentence. What a tragic story! Do you think the judgment passed on Mr. Stanford was the best? Do you think Stanford deserved to live? Let us know what you think. Also, don't forget to give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Alright guys, there we have it. See you in our next video.